afternoon. 14 civil society organizations have applied to join a Supreme Court case testing the constitutionality of Ghana's anti-corruption framework law, the Office of the Special Prosecutor Act 2017, Act 595. The coalition filed the application yesterday in Adamte versus Attorney General suit. The groups described the case as a matter of public interest, arguing that the outcome will determine the future of Ghana's independent anti-corruption enforcement. The suit challenges key provisions that established the Office of the Special Prosecutor and defines its powers. And my colleague Akufo-Addo is joining me in the studio with details of that particular statement that has been issued by the civil society organizations. Akufo, first of all, let's start with the CSOs involved in the suit. Who are they? Well,
a couple of them, and like you said, there's a big suit before the Supreme Court, which will ultimately shape how the special prosecutor is able to prosecute or not. And Noah Adamte versus the Attorney General. The OSP did make an attempt to join, but was rebuffed by the Supreme Court, and so the OSP is not a party. And so ultimately, this action will be decided between the plaintiff and the Attorney General, who, by the way, all seem to have taken a similar position that the prosecutorial powers of the OSP simply isn't there, and a couple of things. So we'll get into some of the issues they have raised, but let's get into the people, the CSOs who are making this demand of the Supreme Court, and they are asking to file what is called a friend of the court sort of submission, amicus curiae, where they can give some education, if you want, or some help to the Supreme Court ultimately making a determination as to whether or not the action that has been brought is merited or not. So Imani Africa, CDD Ghana, Transparency International, ASEP, Star Ghana Foundation, Pen Plus Bytes, Odikro, Africa Education Watch, and several of these organizations, as we know, were part of the processes that led to the drafting of this very important bill that was ultimately passed in Parliament in the 2018 and the 2019, because it was a big political promise for those of you who followed. And so these are some of the creme de la creme when it comes to the civil society organizations that we have in the country. So you look at the public release that they've just put out, they say that the 14 civil society organizations have filed an application before the Supreme Court of Ghana seeking leave to join a constitutional case as amicus curiae in a suit challenging the constitutionality of provisions of the OSP Act 2017, Act 959, and they actually list the suit there. There are people who are joining this. And they say that this intervention is big and it's a non-partisan attempt aimed at supporting constitutional interpretation, strengthening anti-corruption governance, and preserving institutional integrity. And they've also commended the Supreme Court's openness to accept some of these things. They have a packed team of lawyers that are ultimately helping them to put this application before the Supreme Court, led ultimately by Kizito Bayu, a very senior lawyer, Oliver Bakavoma, Esquire, Samson Ladi Anyenini, and Clement Kojo Akapam. This is the team of lawyers that have filed this application before the Supreme Court. Mind you, this is an application to the court, and so if the court is minded to so grant them the opportunity to file this brief, they will do so. If the court rejects it and says, well, the kind of pleadings have already been filed, they are able to move on, then they will do so. So we'll be expecting in the coming days, Ken, what exactly the Supreme Court will do about this, whether or not they will accept this friend of court that these CSOs have filed, or they'll proceed without them. It will just be a filing. The court will take it into cognizance and ultimately make a determination, Ken.
Akufo-Addo, thank you very much. As a member of our legal affairs desk here at Joy News. Let's now bring in an associate with Imani Africa, Kay Kujo, who is part of the coalition seeking to join this case. Kay, grateful for your time this afternoon. First, help us understand why it is important for civil society organizations to join this case as amicus curiae rather than as direct parties.
Yes, thank you very much, and good afternoon to your viewers as well. I think your colleague has said quite a lot already in his presentation, but before I go into the details, it's important to note that the president himself, President Mahama, recently addressed the AG-OSP matter publicly during the May Day celebration in Akufo-Addo, and acknowledged the ongoing constitutional disputes, but reaffirmed Governments believe in a space for an effective OSP with special powers of prosecution. I think that is a very important statement because it goes a long way to signal recognition at the highest level that prosecutorial independence remains central to the anti-corruption fight. Now, on the main issue itself, yes, 14 CSOs have filed an amicus to join, and the Supreme Court case basically challenges whether parts of the OSP Act allowing independent prosecution are constitutional. That was filed by Lower Adamte. But our concerns arose because the plaintiff, that is Noah Adamte, and the Attorney General appeared aligned on major aspects of the challenge. And as civil society groups, including Imani Africa, we applied to join as amicus curiae to provide an alternative constitutional and public interest perspective. Our position is simple. Constitutional issue of this magnitude deserves a full adversarial debate before the court. The Supreme Court is the highest court of the land, so it's for the reasons why we are very much concerned about the case. You know, Ghana's demand for an independent anti-corruption prosecutor predates the OSP itself. You know, these concerns have long existed about political conflicts in corruption prosecution involving politically exposed persons. So for delegated prosecutorial authorities, it's not new in Ghanaian law. And if it should go left, the implications of the case may extend beyond the OSP to even other statutory institutions. So that is one of the key reasons why we find it very important to participate in this very sensitive national conversation. And just to touch on public trust as well, you know, once citizens believe corruption prosecutions are politically dependent, confidence in accountability systems weaken. So civil society is not arguing that the OSP is perfect. It's a young institution. The concern is about weakening prosecutorial independence. And this should not become an NDC versus MPP debate at all. This is about strong institutions that must survive changes in government. So that is our position as CSOs.
And you argue that your involvement in the drafting of Act 595 gives you, quote, institutional memory. Practically, how will that influence the Supreme Court interpretation of the law?
We cannot speak for the Supreme Court. You know, once a case is going to the Supreme Court or has been filed in the Supreme Court, it's important to allow our titanic judges to interpret that. And but we do believe that our contributions were made in good faith, and it was also made in line with the rule of law as well. There's been several arguments about this prosecutorial authority and interpretations of an LI, questions of if there's an EI, and so on and so forth. And I think that is why we are in the Supreme Court. So it will be premature to comment beyond that. We believe that the Supreme Court, in its own wisdom, will interpret the case in the best interest of Ghana.
Right. So at the heart of this case is the constitutionality of key provisions of the Office of the Special Prosecutor Act. I want to find out, from your perspective, what are the biggest risks if these provisions are struck down?
If you look at the anti-corruption landscape, some have argued that the president appoints the Attorney General and also appoints even the Special Prosecutor who sits at the top of the Office of the Special Prosecutor. So once the president is the appointer, it does not really influence the partisan conversation to a large extent. But we believe that the OSP was created to independently fight corruption. If the AG could have done that, I don't think there would be a conversation about the OSP being set up in the first place. Once those powers are curtailed, we all know what it does to public trust. And this is a government that came into power on the campaign of the reset, on the campaign of Oral, Operation Recover All Loot. And the president has shown severally a commitment to fight corruption extensively. So it makes us ask a lot of questions, because once that happens, it means that all the cases that the OSP is even prosecuting becomes null and void. It will have to be reset. So there are serious consequences if it should go left, like I mentioned previously.
Critics may argue that civil society involvement could be seen as advocacy rather than neutral assistance to the court. How do you respond to concerns about possible bias?
I think critics who say that would be unfair, because there's no neutrality when it comes to the fight against corruption. It's either you are for it or against it. It's as simple as that. And when bad people come together to do bad things, in the context of corruption, okay, I mean, good people should be able to also come together to do good things in the context of fighting corruption. So I think critics who would say that may not be really informed. I would say that.
And what legal or policy gaps do you intend to highlight to the court if your application is granted?
Let's wait for the D-Day.
Okay.
Yes.
So more broadly, what does this case mean for Ghana's anti-corruption fight and the future of the Office of the Special Prosecutor? Do you think it will survive?
It's not about what I think. It's about the rule of law, and that interpretation lies with the Supreme Court. But I think it's an important moment in our history. If we should look at the fight against corruption. So it's very important that it survives, because I've said it previously. It's important that it cannot only be seen to be done; it must be done. And if prosecutorial authority is going to be removed, then the existence of the office itself does not hold. The center will not hold.
Yeah. Okay, Kujo, thank you very much. He's an associate with Imani Africa. To other stories this afternoon, former Chief Executive Officer of the National Food Buffer Stock Company, Abdul Wahab Hanan, and his wife remain out of reach of their lawyers more than 24 hours since Yoko rearrested them. The couple, together with other accused persons, were rearrested shortly after the Attorney General dropped all charges against them, citing fresh evidence. However, their lawyers, led by former Attorney General Godfred Dame, say the legal team have been denied access to their clients.
Arrested indeed. The important point that also made, they have been denied access to counsel. I have junior colleagues of mine who have been sitting at Yoko since about 11 o'clock. They have not been given access to them. They have not been given access to the former chief executive of Buffer Stock. I mean, what kind of practice is that? They have been sitting at Yoko since 11 o'clock. They have not had access to their clients. Junior colleagues of mine, and they are still sitting there. Apparently, Hanan even fell ill in the course of all the harassment and was rushed to the hospital and brought back to Yoko office. He's still in the custody of Yoko at the Yoko office. He's not been given access to his lawyers.
So what's the next line of action? What do you do from here?
Yeah, so trying to negotiate is it being freed from the custody of Yoko and resort to processes that are known to the law. But I'm saying that this unhealthy practice of pre-trial harassment, if the Republic has a genuine case against a person, they ought to abide by the due process, arraign the persons before court with regard to all rights that are known to the Constitution of Ghana, and let the case proceed.
And counsel for the detainees and former Attorney General Godfred Dame has also been providing updates on the case. He spoke earlier on Joy News Today.
They don't know where our client is. My colleagues, as I indicated, were at the office of Yoko yesterday from about 10:30 a.m. until about 8 p.m. The officers of Yoko actually left the office and were there and were denied access to our client. And it's just so reprehensible. I do not know what Yoko and the Attorney General are afraid of or seek to achieve by this strange conduct. It is a case in which the accused persons were on court granted bail before the withdrawal of the charges by the state. So why would they arrest them, throw them into custody without bail and without access to their lawyers? It is the case that the presence of their lawyers, in the view of the Attorney General and Yoko, will impede their torture, harassment, and intimidation they intend to visit on the couple after having failed in the earlier prosecution of them in the court of law.
What are you
so repressible?
Well, what are you thinking could be warranting this? I know that you describe it as unwarranted. In your findings of the law, do you think that Yoko could have a specific law that they're breaching?
Of course. I mean, the right to legal representation is a basic fundamental human right. It is not one to be begged for. It is one that avails every citizen, in fact, every person resident in Ghana, or to legal representation when he's going through such processes. And I think you ought to examine this in the proper context. It's a matter that the state, before it filed its criminal charges against the accused, the Attorney General himself had held a press conference and cited it as a showpiece of the government's oral policy. He, on various national and international media networks, including yours, vilified and maligned the accused persons. Vilified and maligned the accused persons as having stolen money from the state, and that painstaking investigations have been concluded, and that he was holding in his hand a draft charge sheet to be filed within a few days. He proceeded to file the said charge sheet, and remarkably, the allegations that the Attorney General himself made against the couple, Hanan and his wife, in his press conference, were exactly the basis for the charges filed. And a year down the road, it has become clear that the prosecution is facing difficulties in the prosecution of that case. Last week, objections were raised about the unlawful attempt by the prosecution to introduce fresh witness statements without leave of the court, in place of old ones which they had filed about 6 months ago. When those objections were upheld, the Attorney General's next move was to withdraw all the charges yesterday and turn around to rearrest the couple. But what is more embarrassing and deplorable is that when the charges are withdrawn, the Attorney General and Yoko decide to rearrest them and deny them bail, and also deny them access to their lawyers. This can only amount to torture. Well, and indeed, what is this fresh evidence that they speak about? I think it's just a face-saving move by the government to sustain the propagandist narrative about Ura. Baseless allegations of stealing leveled against them. Will
I then conclude that because you've not had access to your client, this fresh evidence the Attorney General is citing, you have not been briefed then? You would not know?
Definitely not. And I'm quite surprised that the government has not made this known, because this is a government that is always quick to take the propagandist highway by holding press conferences and all. Indeed, the Attorney General himself, as I indicated, had a press conference about a year ago, bastardized the accused persons as having stolen money, destroyed their reputation, and vilified them in the eyes of the whole world before proceeding to court. A matter that the Attorney General himself has stated that painstaking investigations and the evidence was watertight to secure conviction.
In other stories this afternoon, the Asantehene Otumfuo Seitu II says a completion of the Buankra Integrated Logistics Terminal is necessary in job creation for the youth of the country. Aside from the direct jobs being created, persons within the catchment area and the Greater Kumasi area would yield economic benefits from the project. During a high-level meeting at the Menchia Palace, the Asantehene, who is worried about the delays, believes any attempt to halt the project will cause financial loss to the state. Nana Yaojima has more in this report.
The Asantehene made the remarks when board members of the Ghana Port and Harbours Authority, led by board chairman Johnson Esiedun Ketia, paid a courtesy call on him. The group had earlier visited the site to see the progress of work done. To the Asantehene, it is necessary for the government to find internal sources of funding to finance the project, as efforts are being made to find strategic investors to complete the project.
This will not just benefit the Ashanti region, it will create jobs for people in the region and others as well. If we decide to neglect it even after the investment is made, then we have caused financial loss to the state.
For over 19 years, the project, which is seen as a game changer to generate the needed revenue for the country, has missed its completion deadlines. On a recent visit to the area, consultants say the project has progressed by only 6% instead of the estimated 20% projected for April 2026 due to financial constraints. The board chairman of the Ghana Port and Harbours Authority, Johnson Esiedun Ketia, speaking to the Asantehene, underscored the need to complete the Blankra Inland Logistic Terminal to improve revenue generation for the country and project partners.
We came to see the progress of work and strategize on how to complete it. We can't sit and watch this go waste. I have to ensure that this is completed for the country.
Hinting on the need for railway development at the terminal, the board chairman indicated though the railway is necessary, the project can be operationalized without the lines. For Joy News, Nane Ochima reporting.
And this afternoon, the Executive Secretary to the President, Dr. Callistus Mahama, is warning that subtle jostling for the NDC's 2028 leadership could undermine the hard-won gains of the current administration, with more than 2 years still left in President Mahama's mandate. In an opinion piece, he argues that early signs of ambition are already creeping in, distracting from the urgent task of governance and recovery. He cautions that shifting focus towards secession at this stage is not only premature, but risks becoming what he describes as a quiet form of neglect. Dr. Mahama insists that the party must first complete its internal reorganization from the grassroots up before any leadership contest, urging those with ambitions to exercise restraint to step aside if necessary. My colleague Michael Ashale is joining me on Zoom with details of this statement. Michael, let's start with why he thinks it is disingenuous for these people to start campaigning this early.
Well, he says in his long epistle that the timing is deeply concerning, describing it as a quiet danger that creeps into the political life. It goes on to say that not with noise, but with whispers. According to him, that moment appears to be approaching far too early, especially when the administration is barely a year and a half into its mandate. He warns that attention can't drift from governance to succession, stressing that to turn, even partially, from that task toward personal political calculations, it's not just premature, it is quiet form of neglect, Kenneth.
And does he say anything about the state of the party itself, whether it is even ready for such a conversation?
Well, he tells us that he's clear in his mind that as it stands that the party is not ready. And he points out that the internal democratic journey in itself is incomplete, noting that even basic structures like some of the elections that are supposed to be done at the branch level have not yet been conducted. He says the foundation has not yet been settled. So thoughts are already drifting to the summit, warning that this rush could undermine the legitimacy of future leadership in the country.
And what exactly is he asking those with these ambitions to do?
So he is urging restraint and discipline. He says, quote, the pursuit of personal ambition creates a quiet erosion of performance, discipline and trust, and insists that public officials must prioritize governance. It goes on that those who cannot subordinate ambition to duty risk doing injustice to both, and where necessary, there is honor, he says, in stepping aside.
Right. And does he give any indication of who he may be referring to?
Well, Kenneth, in his opinion piece, he did not mention any particular name. Well, but there are growing signs of movement on the ground, with several figures increasingly being mentioned as possible contenders. Recent polls by Global Info Analytics point to about 5 frontrunners from the NDC. These include the National Chairman, Johnson Asiedu Nketia, whose ongoing thank you tour has raised eyebrows among some who see it as early positioning. Also, there's the Chief of Staff, Julius Deborah, who has been more visible publicly, organizing corporate walks and engaging more directly in national conversations. There's also Vice President Jane Nano Boko-Ajiman, who is also consistently mentioned alongside Education Minister Haruna Idrisu, who has stepped up his engagements as well across the country. And then there's the Finance Minister, Dr. Kasela Tufosin, who has kept a relatively low profile, but continues to also feature strongly in some of these polling data. Interestingly, though, according to this Global Info Analytics poll, the latest one that they did, that suggests that all these political contenders will be competitive against NPP's likely flag bearer, or who their flag bearer actually, of Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. And if elections were held today, all these 5 people may be able to floor the NPP's candidate, but it remains to be seen what really will happen on the ground. And some of these people, I must say again, have not formally and officially announced that they are running for flag bearership of the NDC, but these are some of the movement we are seeing on the ground that is being corroborated by Global Info Analytics.
Michael Ashale, thank you very much. Joining me on the telephone lines right now is the Executive Director of Global Info Analytics, Musa Dankwa. Mr. Dankwa, grateful for your time this afternoon. What do you make of the opinion piece put out by the President's Secretary?
Right, thank you very much for having me. I read the opinion piece yesterday, and it's quite intriguing and very interesting. I think they want to set the record straight that if you want to contest openly at the stage, you must leave your post as a government appointee. And I think that is in right order. Those who want to compete now can certainly resign from the positions and focus on their personal ambitions. If you look at what is happening, I think the concerns have come from initial activity we saw from Mr. Deborah when he was doing his weekend walk with Julio. And then sadly, the chairman joined, probably thinking that the front runner he thought was Mr. Deborah, and that if he does nothing, I think he might lose the momentum. So he also came up with his own thank you song, which we all believe that is taking to campaign. So these are 2 people that have really initially been out there doing some stuff they seem to be with regards to the government. If we check the general view of the people who would decide to NDC, they tend to focus on performance of being part of the government or good servant of the government. So if you decide to leave the government early, you may not fit the criteria they are looking for. So for those who want to probably contest, I think it is better to they remain loyal to the government, team player, and not to be distracted at this stage with their own activities as far as campaign is concerned.
You're a man of data. Does the data support any of the claims he's making in his opinion piece?
Look, I think the public have confidence in the government and in the president. And if you are deemed to be somebody who is really in the activity, you could be punished for that. So I think there is kind of evidence to that effect. So if they hit that call, I think it will be good for them. If they don't, I think they may be punished. Okay, actually.
Your latest poll puts all the likely flag bearers of the NDC ahead of the flag bearer of the MPP, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, including Vice President Jane Nano Boko-Ajiman and others. Let's talk about that. First of all, what was the most surprising thing in that opinion poll that you conducted?
Look, as it's been done in many places around the world, hypothetical race before the race is even concluded. we just matched the top 4 candidates of the NDC for the December poll against the NPP candidates who have been elected. And the interesting thing is that when it comes to Akufo-Addo versus Bawumia, the margin is about 18 points, which is he is outperforming Muhammad's margin against Bawumia. And for me, that is very interesting. Even though overall he's slightly underperforming Professor Muhammad in the race, because Muhammad got 56 and Akufo-Addo is getting 55. But the gap between Bawumia and Akufo-Addo is 18 points. And that, for me, very revealing. If you look at that of the Akilin Ketia, the gap is around 12 points.
Mr. Dankwa, I would like you to reposition yourself because we appear to be having issues with your connection. But okay. that brings me to my next question. But that is a very interesting poll that you conducted there, looking at somebody like the Vice President Jane Nana Opoku-Agyeman and the Education Minister, the Finance Minister, the National Chairman of the NDC, all polling ahead of Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. Does that mean that regardless of who the NDC brings, according to your poll, anybody that they bring at all, whether popular or not, is likely to beat the MPP's candidate? And why really? Did the people tell you?
Look, you can't really say anybody NDC brings. If you limit the race to the 4 that we polled, you could say that at this stage, they have edge over Bawumia. At this stage. It doesn't mean that the numbers will stay the same in 2028. We are still polling. But it gives you a sense that voters probably would vote for NDC candidates than MPP candidates. And probably Bawumia is paying for the sins of the party.
That's quite interesting. So with what Dr. Callistus has enumerated in his opinion polls, if these advice are not taken, it's likely that people's opinions could change in the next poll you conduct, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
There have also been concerns about President John Mahama. There are calls for him to reshuffle his cabinet. Not long ago, we heard the Greater Accra Regional Minister Linda Oklub make some comment about the transfer of some officers to the northern part of the country as a punishment. She has since apologized, though, but the calls are intensifying for President John Mahama to relieve her of her post as regional minister. Do you think that some of these decisions and some of these growing calls could in any way affect the chances of the likely candidates to lead the NDC into the 2028 elections?
No, I don't think this has any bearing with the NPC flag bearership race in 2028. But certainly these are governance issues. And what she actually spoke, is the uncomfortable truth with our politics. Just that it was just inconvenient to say that at public figure.
I see. I'm curious to find out what the people you polled, the reason they gave you as to whether or not they will choose the NDC candidate over the MPP candidate in your latest poll. What specific reason? They're happy with the government? Is that the reason they gave?
Look, we didn't ask them the reason why they were voting for NDC's candidate as opposed to MPP's candidate. However, you can glean that from the data when it comes to the direction of the country. Do you believe that the country is headed in the right direction or wrong direction? Most people are saying right direction. And most people who are saying right direction are voting for NDC candidates. So there are certain indicators that it is positive. And if those remain positive, it will tend to inure to the benefit of NDC. For example, economic condition of yourself in the last 12 months. Those who are saying has improved are voting for NDC candidates. So you can figure out why they are voting for NDC candidates compared to MPP candidates.
That's quite interesting. So who is the biggest gainer and who is the biggest loser in your latest poll for the likely flag bearers of the NDC?
Look, if you look at the NDC flag bearership from the voters' perspective, the biggest gainer has been Akufo-Addo. I mean, this is the first time they are cruising for the summit. He's always been in third position for many of these months that we've been polling. But in the last poll, March, he moved from, I think, third to third position. the biggest loser has been Haruna Idrisu, who has been led for all this while from April 2024 till March 2026. April 2025 to March 2026, where he lost grounds to second or third position now. I think his issue is that people are probably coming to realize that it will be very difficult to have a northern candidate ascend to the presidency again after Mahama. And that reality is probably sinking in.
That's an interesting revelation, because you have another northerner in the person of Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia on the camp of the MPP. But by the way, does the position they hold, these are two cabinet ministers, one is in charge of finance, one is in charge of education. Does it have any bearing, their performances within their various sector? Did it have any bearing in their losing and their gaining? Because Akufo-Addo obviously is the finance minister. People are saying that the economy is on the right track. The education too is having its problems. Did it have any bearing, the positions they hold?
I don't think the clip of Haruna Idrisu is due to the issues in the educational sector. I don't believe that at all. However, for Akufo-Addo, his rise to the summit can be linked directly to his performance on the economy and how people feel about cost of living, how they feel about general economic performance, and how they feel about the same way and that kind of matrix. He's riding at the back of those economic indicators, and that's the reason why he's up there. I believe if those numbers slip significantly, he will suffer as a result of that.
Vice President Jane Nana Opoku-Agyeman appears to be the dark horse in this race. And it appears that in recent times, her polling numbers have appreciated, hasn't it?
So if you look at where we started the poll, where he was before in the first poll, it was quite high. In fact, he was leading the pack in early April. Then set in her health care. I think from when she was taken ill, the numbers have been plummeting. But in the last few months, it's up a bit slightly, but it's not material enough to really put her as a main or lead contender in the NDC. And I think it's because, one, people think about her health, and two, about her age if she wins the 2028 election. So that is probably dragging her down.
What about her gender? Do people have concerns about that?
No, gender is not an issue.
Let's look at the Chief of Staff, Julius Deborah. Not long ago, he was almost everywhere, participating in, fitness walks, jogging everywhere, and all that. And all of a sudden, we didn't see him again. We saw him resurface not long ago at the Church of Pentecost when he celebrated his birthday. Let's look at his performance as well. Has it gotten any better or otherwise?
I mean, for him, initially, he was doing quite well. And then between July and October, he began to slide. I believe it's not proof, but it is. I believe that when he was doing his activities, work with Jesus on the weekend, people thought at that point it was too early, and that was not seen to be team player activity. So he began to suffer as a result of that. He stopped that activity for some time now. And if you see what has happened in the polls, even though we are yet to test again for the public, among the delegates, he's gone up slightly compared to where he was before. So probably acting more like the Chief of Staff is helping him than probably doing the work which people thought was too early and also destructive.
The final person I want us to focus on is the party's chairman, Johnson Asiedu Nketia. 2 years after the NDC won power, he's still touring the country on a thank you tour. What has happened to his numbers? Is he getting better or otherwise?
Look, at the beginning, he was not doing well. He was around 4th position or so. But over time, he's increasing in the poll numbers. But we've seen his numbers pitch up quite significantly when he intensified the thank you tour. And that is natural, because when you go out and you are campaigning, or even though he says thank you tour, you tend to get an elevated kind of attention among the voters and also among delegates. The question is, will he remain where he is right now if the thank you tour comes to an end? And where will his level or true level of performance be down the line? But certainly, he has risen up to a very good position now. In terms of the delegate, he is number 1 at the moment, ahead of Akufo-Addo in terms of head-to-head by 5 points. But in public, among the public, is much behind significantly. And also among the NDC voters is down quite significantly, because supporting among NDC is around 51% or so, and I think it's around 31%.
Musa Dankwa, always great to have you on our show. He's the executive director of the Global Info Analytics. Still on politics, though, the opposition NPP is intensifying its reconciliatory exercise with a door-to-door peace campaign to some aggrieved stalwarts of the party. The party's flag bearer, Mahmoud Bawumia, has in the last few days been leading the charge, with the latest being a visit to one of the founding fathers of the party, Charles Rekubrobe, who was once suspended by the party in 2013 over public comments on the 2012 election petition, which the party alleged put its image into disrepute. Deputy spokesperson Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, Dr. Akufo-Addo, is joining me via Zoom with some more on this. Welcome to the program, Dr. Akufo-Addo. What is the scope of this reconciliation effort by the party? Akufo-Addo, rather. Kindly unmute so we can hear you.
Sorry, Ken. I was saying it's Amwako. My dad will not be happy.
Oh, I mentioned Amwako the first time and I reverted back to...
Yeah, you always get it right.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Okay.
Let me first say good afternoon to everyone, and apologies for the bad lighting. I'm at work currently. So I will go on. I think... even as the flag bearer of the MPP, His Excellency Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia started his campaign ahead of the primary, the 2026 primary, the focus of his campaign was always about unity and bringing the party together. So these visits to reach out to all the rank and file of the party are visits that actually started way before this time. It started way before the primaries. A lot of reaching out and handing out of olive branches was done prior to the election. God being so good, His Excellency was victorious in that election. And so he has continued with that drive to reconcile and rebuild the party. Because we all know that, when broomsticks are put together and you try to break it, it's quite difficult to achieve. But if you take it out singly, it makes it quite easy to break apart. So in keeping with that, he has undertaken a very rigorous reconciliation drive. It's a process that he's taking very, very seriously. He has met multiple people. It's not everything that we have been posting for everyone to see.
Okay.
Firstly, he met with all the other aspirants that he contested with. He had very fruitful engagements with all of them. And then he had engagements with other party stalwarts, including Dr. Nyahuta Maklo, and the picture that you saw with Dr. Charles Rekubrobe, just to try and see what we can do to bring them all together. I think one thing that is very important for everybody to note is that a political party is essentially like a big family. And in any family, from time to time, there are issues. It's not all the time that you can get everyone facing one direction. But as a family, it is very important that efforts are made to reach out and then solve whatever problems that may exist between us so that we can come together again. Because as that's becoming very clear to the people of Ghana and to members of the MPP. The NDC rode on a wave of, I would like to say, a lot of deception to come into power. And it is becoming clearer by the day. Every day it is getting clearer to the people of Ghana that maybe it's not what they bought that they have received. So it is very important for us as a party to put ourselves together so that we can put up a very credible opposition and provide the people of Ghana a very credible option come 2028 when they go to the polls. And I'm pretty sure that at that point, it will be very clear that His Excellency Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is the only person that would be able to take the country forward from where we are now.
There's one thing, he reaching out to them. There's another thing, they responding. How has the response been to all the places that he's been to?
To be honest with you, the response has been fantastic. Every person that he has reached out to has welcomed him wholeheartedly. They are all along with this journey of rebuild and reconcile. You know, it's been for a lot of these figures that we've mentioned. It's been a long time coming. So I think they are all willing to come together, come back to the table, so that we can, you know, pursue the agenda of the party as has always been. The whole point of the MPP has always been to create a Ghana that we all want to live in. And I'm pretty sure that they all still have that very close to their chest and dear to their chest. So it's an opportunity for all of us to come together so we can get this done. It's obvious this 24-hour economy is not going to happen. It's obvious my people in Ashanti region are going to suffer with this doom for a while. So it is very important for us to get our act together so that we can come and, you know, make things better.
Not long ago, he was at the SDA church and, called on the NDC to fulfill a number of promises they'd made to Ghanaians. Critics have been arguing that why was he campaigning in church? It was not necessary for him to have campaigned in church. The NDC has condemned those campaigns that were held at the SDA church. How has the former vice president been receiving this?
Ken, number one, I don't think the critics are the NDC. Like my boss and good friend Dennis Miracle said, our job is not to say things that will please the NDC. It was a message that has been on the mouths and minds of the people of Ghana. You see, one thing that we keep forgetting while we do this politicking is that we are actually dealing with the lives of people, the population that live in this country. And so there's nothing wrong with re-echoing their needs. Everything he mentioned is something that is dear to the people of Ghana. The last time I came to your studio, I had no power in my house. In fact, coming from work this afternoon, there was no power there. In Ashanti region, it is much worse. So I don't see anything wrong. In fact, I think it is hypocritical for the NDC to be making such comments because we've seen videos of them, all of them. Ken, let me just quickly ask you a question. Where was it that the chief of staff went to cry?
That was the Church of Pentecost.
Exactly. So are we trying to say that the NDC has to live by a different set of rules while the MPP lives by a different set of rules? I don't think that's fair. Every politician knows that,
But Dr. Akua, to be fair, those are very different scenarios. That was an apology. This was a subtle campaigning. So we can't compare.
No, it was an apology. It was also a political act. It was a political act by the NDC to clean up their image after they ran into those issues. So yes, it was also used as a platform to send out their message. And if you listen clearly to what His Excellency Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia said, I was actually present at the event. It was a long speech. That was just like a very short part of it. Sending a message to the chairman of the NDC, who was also going to be present at the event. What other medium did you expect him to be able to pass that message on? And then my point with all of us is, let's just stop the hypocrisy. We've seen His Excellency John Mahama in different churches, also essentially campaigning. I even posted that video on my social media account so that we could drop this hypocrisy. It's not like he went there to campaign. There was a long speech. He thanked the SDA Church for all their contributions to the development of Ghana. We all know that they are very involved in our educational sector. They have so many schools. They have so many secondary schools. In fact, my mom went to Bekwa SDA. So he was very grateful and commended them for all their contributions to national development, and then sent just a very short piece of information to the ruling governments, which seem to have unsettled them so much that they are critiquing in the wrong way. Because if you listen to what they are saying, they're essentially attacking themselves. This is something they have done over and over and over and over again. So I don't see what has changed now. Yeah.
Okay.
It's very important for the people of Ghana that these issues are fixed. And so I think it's obviously on course for the opposition leader to highlight it, because the bottom line is we expect Ghanaians to get what they voted for. And we are going to continue to keep them on their toes, whether they like what we say or not.
Dr. Akua, don't go yet. Let me bring in Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante. He's a political scientist. Welcome to the program, Dr. Asah-Asante. Briefly, what do you make of the approach of the MPP to this? Keep it as private as possible, And which key persons do you believe they have to rope in if this exercise will be a success?
Thanks for the opportunity. I think every member who has some concern about his presence within the party, I think the material worth considering and then worth approach so that they can have a conversation with him or her. Remember that in exercise of this nature, you are looking at the numbers, how you can show up your numbers so as to win power. So it's not some of that sort. You should be able to get your scheme.
Dr. Asante, your line keeps breaking. I don't know where you are, but it appears I'm not establishing a clear connection to you. Can you hear me, sir?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, much better. Let's try again.
Yes, what I'm saying that everybody matters. I mean, especially those who are aggrieved, especially those who have concerns and all that. That the mechanism that they put in place should be able to get everybody on board and get all their concerns heard and addressed. That is the way to go. It is interesting that they are doing this because initially people have suggested to them that this is the way to go, but they threw it away. I'm sure upon sober reflection, they've seen that this is the way to go. For me, it is the way to go.
Right.
But the difficulty that they have, which they need to also wrap their hands around, is to how to those who have gone out, how do you get them in? Especially those who have made statements against the flag bearer. Can they campaign for the flag bearer? Can they come in? When they come in, what role are they going to play? How do they want the world to see them? That the very things they've said against the party, the flag bearer, what has changed? Then now they want the world to see a different flag bearer in terms of their perspective of him. That is the bigger challenge for them.
And who are these individuals you speak of?
Oh, there are a lot of people who, through certain processes within the party, were pushed out or were there, but they were actually in opposition within a winning government when they were in power and all that. They know themselves. They should be able to reach out to all of those people,
right,
and then see how best they can get them to come and then support the cause. But as I've already said, that the real difficulty is those who have said so many things against the flag bearer, against the party. How can they change all that to be able to convince others to follow them on the new path that they are starting? That is $1 million question for them.
Right. In the lead up to the 2016 elections, a number of top guns within the MPP were suspended, including then General Secretary Kwabena Ejapon. We also had the then chairman, Paul Afoko, a stalwart like Charles Rekubrobe, who the former vice president visited not long ago. Among several big names were suspended in the lead up to the 2016 elections. But that was their biggest election victory thus far. They won the election with those suspensions. So really, what difference will this make? How will this be different from that election that they won if they are to reconcile with all these people? What happens if they don't?
If the argument is what they want to hold on to, then I'm not sure that Dr. Bawumia will begin this journey that he has started. Because they know that, look, different factors influence the choice of Nana Akufo-Addo at the time. But now, there is a whole different sort of fact that on what need to be able to have everybody within the party in order to galvanize all support and then fight the election. So they need everybody. What happened previously that were booted out and yet the party won, if they want to rely on that, they will have something different to contend with. So I expect them to chart this path and then make sure that they bring everybody on board.
Right.
This exercise is a good one, but how they are going to do it is a function of whether they will be successful or not. But I know that if they are able to do it well, that they'll be able to get some number of people who will follow them. Not all of them, because some of them, they are at the point of no return. They won't come back. Because when they come back, it will not inure to their benefit. And then when they come back they will feel isolated because of the things they've said, things they've done within the party. But it's better late than never.
Right. We're barely 2 years away from the next general elections. How quick should the MPP be in trying to unite the party? How quick should the party's flag bearer be in seeking unity to present to the next elections?
If you are an opposition political party, you have all the time, but you need to make hay when the sun is shining. But the time is now, because we are just 2 years away from election. So begin to mend your differences, put the party into full gear, and then begin to hit the ground running. Yes, because once you are in opposition, there are a lot of forces that militate against you. So you need to look at all of them and then work at them so as to win power. So it's a tall order, but I know that if they are able to put their house in order, they should be able to have a formidable team to contest the election. As to whether they win or not, time will tell.
Right.
But you need to put a team together, a formidable team, a team that can stand the test of time. And remember that you are also not going to have it easy, because you have a government that has also won power landslide and is also performing and all that. So the forces at work are a lot. But hey, political parties, they know how to win power. So I'll leave it with them for them to work all the fine details out.
Right. Dr. Kwame Asante, thank you very much. He's a political scientist with the University of Ghana. I still have Dr. Akufo-Addo with me. She's the deputy spokesperson for the former vice president, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia. Dr. Akufo-Addo, you've been listening to the political scientist. Are you going to pick any of the advice he's been proffering?
Of course. I think he rightfully said in opposition, the game is basically to have open arms and, take constructive criticism, take feedback, take what you can out of it, and then to implement it. So that's definitely something that we are going to do. I just wanted to put out a more comprehensive list of almost everybody that His Excellency has already touched base with. Not only has he seen Uta Maklo and Dr. Akufo-Addo, he's also seen Professor Okwe, Dr. Adokofo, Kojo Mpianim, and Kwame Mpianim. So, it's a very wide-reaching reconciliation drive that he's doing. And it's not only to these figures, it's for most opinion leaders in this country, and he's going to continue to do that. One of the things he campaigned on as flag bearer was his ability to unite the party, and I think it's already clear the steps that he's taken to ensure that happens. So I think it's a step in the right direction, and we should all, be excited and hopeful for what the MPP has next.
My final question to you will be the latest poll by Global Info Analytics, which says that any of the front runners to lead the NDC would beat the former vice president if elections were held today. What is the MPP doing to bridge the gap? Because if you look at the polling numbers, they were quite huge.
Quite frankly, I haven't had time to look at the polling numbers, but I'm always one to look at data and then work on it. Anytime polls are conducted, I think the belief is that it's from that point. So it's polls as of today, not as of 2028.
Right.
So considering that we had the election just in 2024, it will take some time. I mean, it's good for us that we've appreciated in numbers and the NDC is depreciating in numbers. So obviously something is happening, even if you want to go by the information I'm just receiving, because I haven't had time to critically examine the polls. But like I said, it is a poll of today. It is not a poll of 2028. So we will all know the outcome of the election after we vote come December 2028, isn't it? So polls are always something that we take in our stride, work on, improve where we can, but it's never gospel, as we've seen in the cases of where the member of parliament, Baba Jamal, was elected. I think that was a poll that Global Info Analytics got wrong. So I'm just saying these are all things that you take into consideration, but it's by no means gospel. So it's definitely something that we're going to work on. We have a few more years ahead to be able to position the party to be a very credible option for the Ghanaians, for the Ghanaian people in terms of governance. So I'm quite confident that we are going to achieve that.
Dr. Kuya Mwako is the deputy spokesperson for MPP flag bearer, Dr. Mahmoudou Bawumia. Thank you very much. You're still watching The Pulse here on Joy News. We return from the break with more. Don't go anywhere. Pupils of Alajo 1 Basic School here in Accra are struggling to learn as extreme heat grips their classrooms. Many battle discomfort and poor concentration through lessons. Researchers warn rising temperatures could be affecting learning outcomes. Emmanuel Jivenu has more in today's climate evidence.
Who do you pray to? God. So how many of you wait for God to respond to what it is?
It's late morning at Alajo 1 Basic School. The earlier rains has done little to cool the day. Inside this Basic 6 classroom, the air is still and hot.
Those who pray to the Supreme Being.
Their teacher is taking them through lessons on prayers. But across the room, pupils are losing focus. Some pupils pick up their exercise book not to write, but to fan themselves. Others use pieces of cloth or anything they can find. A few stop writing, lift their heads, and try to catch a breath of air that does not come.
Something in your mind. Are you okay?
Yes. My name is Farhana Suraj. Mostly when they are teaching, we feel seats in the class. So you will see people taking book, fanning themselves. There is heat.
Farhana is trying to follow the lesson, but she keeps losing focus. She fans herself, takes a sip of water, and tries again.
Sometimes some people don't concentrate on learning. Madam can give classwork, maybe some people did not understand what she said, so we may get to work.
So that's a prayer of thanksgiving. Then I go to number 2.
The heat builds as the day goes on. By midday, temperatures rise to about 30 to 31 degrees Celsius. With the humidity, it becomes difficult to sit still, let alone concentrate.
We are feeling hot. Am I the only one feeling hot? Who is feeling hot? Hey, why the fan?
There is fun in the classroom. The teacher notices the class is restless and asks for it to be switched on.
Okay, so get it on and let's.
It starts turning, but the air is still warm. Some pupils look at it briefly, then go back to fanning themselves. They already know it won't make much difference.
You have a fan in the classroom, but it's not helping. It blows heat.
Next to Farhana is Elizabeth, who has stopped writing. She leans back, fanning herself with her book, her focus drifting away from the lesson.
My teacher is teaching this, I can't feel comfortable. And I can't concentrate well. So sometimes I don't understand what she teaches us.
Our classroom is like an oven because of the heat in the classroom. Full heat in the class. So some people don't concentrate on learning. So madam can give class of people, some will get wrong and some will get correct.
Farhana describes the classroom as an oven, and that is how it feels. At the front, the teacher keeps going, slowing the lesson and trying to hold the attention. But the heat is getting to her too. She pauses, wipes her face, and carries on.
It's unbearable, even in your own room when you are there and there's heat. It can't really be this one. So the students don't even concentrate when they are learning sometimes. They are finding themselves with fans and everything. So it's affecting teaching and learning. They don't concentrate, especially after lunch, that's the second break after 12. The heat is really intense, so they really don't feel comfortable. And we as teachers, we don't feel comfortable.
The problem, she says, is not just the weather. It is the classroom itself. The The walls are fitted with small breeze blocks meant for ventilation, but the openings are narrow and limit airflow. Instead of letting heat out, the room traps it, leaving the air still and warm.
The structure is also patched, and the roofing as well. The roofing is obvious because looking at the kind of designs we have, I think there should be air blowing, but it doesn't come that much, and the ceiling too is affecting it.
If the sun is scorching, it's called the roofing, so the roofing gets hot, and the heat will come to the class.
Outside, the sun heats the metal roof. Inside, the heat rises and stays trapped in the room. But beyond what the pupils and teachers feel, there is an effort to put numbers to it, to give meaning to the experience. A small device fixed in one of the corners of the classroom has been recording what happens here throughout the day. Every 10 minutes, it tracks temperature and humidity, building a clearer picture of the condition these pupils learn in. Betty Avanu Davidson is part of the research team from the University of Ghana. She returns from time to time to download the data.
Hi, how are you? What is the class? Can you please take it for me? Be careful, you can use the table. Oh, you can take it. Okay.
This is a tiny tag, and it records temperature, the temperature of a room. It records the relative humidity as well as the dew point. And this recording is done at 10-minute interval each day. Loading data from this tag. So we deployed some tags in the school, and this is one of the tags. So we come here every 4 months to download data from the tag. However, you need scientific backing. You need to back them with data. So this is going to give us the scientific data, the scientific records to back the perceptional data that we are taking.
What is happening in this classroom is not isolated. Professor Ebenezer Amankwa is the lead researcher.
There is some rising temperatures over the years in the schools that we've monitored, and these rising temperatures combining with factors such as building orientation, classroom characteristics, poor tree shading tends to increase the extreme heat in the school.
Across urban areas like Accra, researchers are observing what is known as the urban heat island effect, where buildings, roads, and roofing materials trap heat and raise temperatures.
We also continue the old architecture of having the courtyards or the overhangs where, like a small corridor in front of the classrooms that sort of protect the sun rays from having direct contact to the classrooms. So once you have those courtyards or corridors, they sort of become the sun bricks. So they reduce the sun intensity from getting to the classrooms. For security and other reasons, they are changing the traditional windows into block windows, and that is not good because that really affects ventilation. We need to make sure that GAS is very hard on this, and so that if a school wants to make any renovation, they should be within these standards that would not sacrifice the thermal comfort of students at the expense of providing security in the classroom.
Ghana already recognizes the risk. In its national climate plan, the country warns that if action is delayed, the long-term cost could undermine development and affect vulnerable groups, including children, in classrooms like this.
Let's start quantifying the cost of no action, right? So as academics, there's something that we tend to do so that we bring the evidence to stakeholders and policymakers so that they can make evidence-based policies, right? Because if you don't take action now, you pay a cost, you pay a price for that, okay? And this will include the performance of your school, of your students. Okay, this will include the absenteeism that the school children will face during extreme heat, where they don't sleep well at home and they come to school, and then the heat is also so much that they can't bear in the classrooms.
This condition is not limited to Alajo 1 Basic School. It is happening in classrooms across the country. Pupils who should be following lessons are instead trying to stay comfortable, and over time, those small gaps begin to add up.
If you are finding yourself, shoes, maybe sometimes you say that even hair crack is feeling heat. So I should put the book down and concentrate.
The teacher has been teaching the whole day, so he or she expects you to get something at that time of the day. But the learners who maybe at the time they are also suffering or they are getting something else at that time. Meanwhile, it is not known to the teacher or something. But the teacher is doing his or her work.
Heat, has been a big thing. And if you don't get a teacher who understands these dynamics in the classrooms, and the classroom is too hot, what the teacher will do is to just be caning school children, because school children are also experiencing discomfort, and the teacher themselves are also experiencing their own discomfort.
You want air conditioning? Yes.
The lesson continues, but not everyone is keeping up. While the class moves on, some pupils are still trying to catch up with what they missed in the heat. The heat is not stopping school, but it is changing what is learned and what is lost along the way. Over time, those missed moments begin to matter.
I want to be a journalist in future to talk about things going on in the country, but I'm afraid maybe the condition in the classroom will affect my performance.
Ghana's own climate plan warns that without action, the long-term cost could affect development and the most vulnerable. And in classrooms like this, that future is already taking place.
So you have
Troy News,
to say that,
Alajo,
oh, this is what I've done.
Accra.
We are feeling hot. Am I the only one feeling hot?
This story is brought to you by Joy News in partnership with CDK and Ghana Invest.
A breakthrough agreement between the Ministry of Health, management of the Korle-Bu Teaching Hospital, and two key health worker unions is expected to restore calm at the facility following days of tensions over the management of the Central Medical Laboratory. A meeting convened by the Chief Director Desmond Boatin is expected to restore calm at the Korle-Bu Teaching Hospital as parties reached a consensus aimed at ensuring continuity of services and reducing tensions within the facility. Well, this comes after clashes between the Korle-Bu Doctors Association and the Medical Laboratory Professional Workers Union Korle-Bu chapter over leadership of the Central Medical Laboratory, with MEL PWU threatening a strike if a laboratory scientist leader was not reinstated. Let's get on to Zoom right now for more on this development, and I've been joined by the chapter chairman of the Medical Laboratory Professional Workers Union, John Kofi Nakoja, and Dr. Asari Ofer for further insight into the agreement. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. I want to begin with you, Dr. Nakoja. What key concessions did your union secure in this agreement? Unmute your microphone so we can hear you.
Good afternoon, sir, and good afternoon to all listeners of The Pulse. So I am John Kofi Nakoja. I'm the chapter chairman for Melpu Korle-Bu Teaching Hospital chapter. Sorry, I lost you in the middle of the question. Can you please come in?
Right. I was asking what key concessions did your union have to do in this agreement?
All right. So yesterday at the meeting with the Chief Director, Minister of Health, we went there with the purpose that our laboratory did not have headship and that someone has acclaimed or alleged that more than 50% of our laboratory results are wrong. And because we do not have leadership, we are not able to attend to these allegations. So we went to the Chief Director because the management of hospital have decided to revoke the appointment of the head of Department of Central Laboratory Services and to replace instead the medical director, who is the director of medical affairs, to steer the affairs of the laboratory whilst we wait for resolution. So yesterday with the chief director, we made mention that we cannot trust the medical director to act fairly, looking at the fact that he's a medical doctor and the laboratory scientists were the head who had been revoked. So we do not trust his leadership. So at the meeting, management proposed to appoint our revoked head of department and reassign him to become a technical coordinator. And the lawyers in our presence made mention that it was a demotion and in violation of the law. So that decision was rescinded. So at yesterday's meeting, the agreement was that the medical director will cease to hold himself as the acting head of Central Laboratory Services. The proposed appointment of coordinators for the laboratory and the medical officers will also be revoked. So as it stands now, we do not have any head of department. We do not have any technical supervisor apart from the hierarchy that was established in the laboratory for now. So this I communicated to my constituents this morning, and they have vehemently vowed that unless and until the gentleman who claimed that more than 50% of their results are wrong, unless he comes publicly to apologize or provide admissible evidence, they are going to close down the place tomorrow morning for troubleshooting because this laboratory is accredited by all standards. And as the doctors have said, this is the only laboratory that their college have accredited also to train them. So to say that more than 50% of our results are wrong, it is demoralizing to the people, and it is an attempt to cause the laboratory to lose its accreditation. So these the professionals have risen against it. But before they can achieve this, they need leadership, because only the head of department that can instruct them to do the troubleshooting. Right.
I have a statement which has your signature. The heading is that demand notice, demand for evidence or retraction of allegation regarding laboratory results accuracy. You've written to the Doctors Association demanding an apology for the claim they made that 50% of the results cannot be trusted. First of all, can you confirm that to me? Is that from you?
Yes, this was after the membership met, and this statement is to the management of Kolebu Teaching Hospital.
Have you received any response?
Not yet, please.
And what are you going to do since you've not received any response? Are you giving them any timeline?
So this morning in our meeting, the members ran over me when I tried to calm them down, and they went around the hospital to announce their displeasure about the statement that more than 50% of their results are wrong, and also calling on management that they gave management 72 hours, which will elapse today, 12 midnight. So if by tomorrow morning, 6 a.m., there's no reinstatement of head of department, and the said gentleman has not publicly apologized or provided admissible evidence, then they have no option than to close down the place and troubleshoot to find out where the errors are coming from.
I spoke to you and Dr. Ofer. I believe he's the one you're referring to a couple of days ago. Yes, a couple of days ago on the show. And he maintained a stance that he's not going to apologize because that is a statement of fact. So what happens then? Because his stance, he hasn't changed it. Are you going to take him on?
So we cannot take him on because this laboratory is an accredited laboratory. So if we have evidence to suggest that our results are wrong, there are remedial processes that we have to take to rectify the wrong. But if he's not able to provide the evidence, then he's putting the name of our profession into disrepute. As for the image of Kolebu, it is up to Kolebu management to redeem it. We don't have the capacity to redeem the image of Kolebu, but we can redeem the image of the medical laboratory professional.
been unsuccessful. But I want you to confirm one more. Hanging, because you are giving a 12 midnight deadline again today.
So the fact of the matter is that we are not on strike, but we are an accredited laboratory. So every 3 months, we send out a survey, a questionnaire, to our client who has patronized our services to assess us, so that wherever there are lapses, we correct it. So if a major client who is a doctor of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital have alleged that more than 50% of our results are questionable, the ISO guidelines mandates that we have to do troubleshooting to see where the problems are coming from and remedy before we can serve the public. So if it happens that they provide the evidence, tomorrow morning, we shall announce the alternative ways or labs available to the patient to access laboratory services within Kolebu.
John Nakoja, thank you very much. He's the chapter chairman of the Medical Laboratory Professional Workers Union at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. Still on health, though, the sector minister is in talks with the World Bank to release funds to complete and operationalize the stalled Weija Pediatric Hospital after residents staged a protest to demand its opening. It follows a demonstration by residents at the facility yesterday over delays in opening the hospital for public use.
Me is a fully built children's hospital sitting idle here in Weija for 2 years. It has remained shut, unused and locked, while residents say lives are being lost just a few kilometers away due to the lack of specialized care. The Member of Parliament for the area is now adding his voice to the growing frustration. He insists the delay is unjustified, arguing that everything needed to operationalize the facility is already in place.
Most disappointed person, and I feel very sad about the situation. I have been here on numerous occasions. You can imagine how much money we are paying just to keep the lights on to ensure that the CT scan stays in shape. You can imagine the lives we've lost. This is a facility that has 120 bed capacity. It has a mother's hostel, so if you brought your child in, your son or your daughter who has to come and seek medical care, the mother will still be around to take care of the child.
But beyond the political call is the anger and desperation of residents that stands up. They say the situation is costing them dearly, pointing to cases of child death, overcrowded health facilities, and lost job opportunities that this hospital could have addressed. You said you had the opportunity to go in.
A complete hospital. And I'm medical say we for politics and tonche and MPP and NDC. A year Jagwawe. Mr. Kwablemita Kando, Minister of Health, on your company. Say Omume be my atom mesh for me.
The facility is complete. Let's put politics aside. This is about the people of Wijagbawi. We are pleading with the President and the Minister of Health to open this facility for us. Our children are dying.
Really affecting me, although we are forcing ourselves to get something doing now. And as for now, we are not like, I'm home and I'm not working for now. I'm not working and I'm home. People will be talking, you went to school without working. Meanwhile, we have a nice building here, which when the facility is being open, I can get the opportunity to work over here.
Residents here say the situation is not just frustrating, it's costing lives. Their demand is simple. Open the hospital, save the lives of the children. For Joy News, my name is Adobe Asari.
Financing of healthcare in Africa has been a major hindrance in quality care delivery. It has also affected implementation of health policies, resulting in delayed care, pressure on infrastructure, and out-of-stock medicines. The World Bank is stepping in to assist Western and Central African countries with funds to bridge the gap and also to attain universal health coverage by 2030. Godfred Dame shares more details from the launch of the strategy Fit to Prosper, investing in health for jobs and development in Western and Central Africa.
According to the World Bank, countries which invested in health security following the 2024 to 2026 Ebola outbreak fared better during COVID-19. Subsequent assessments has, however, indicated weakness in preparedness to detect and respond to health emergencies. The situation usually cripples the development of a country if not readily addressed. That is why they are pumping funds to aid some countries in Western and Central Africa to fix the issue affecting primary health care. Here is Vice President for People at the World Bank Group, Manta Mreti.
We're talking about service-ready facilities which have electricity, they have water, and very importantly, they have digital connectivity. That's number one. Number two, we're talking about diversified delivery platforms so that people can be reached wherever they are. And that means not just primary healthcare facilities, but reached through community health workers, reached through telemedicine, reached through schools. Third, we're talking about an expanded and a digitally enabled health workforce, because that is at the core of primary healthcare. Fourth, we're talking about service packages that are designed around each country's own domestic burden, not external financing priorities. This has been a bit of a reset that is being called for in the global health architecture. Fifth, we're talking about sustainable domestic financing because this is about taking responsibility for the health of one's own population. And sixth, and this is not to minimize the importance of this, we're talking about reliable access to affordable medicines, vaccines, diagnostics, and supplies.
Chief of Staff Julius Debra charged African countries to ensure the strategies are implemented.
No country can achieve health security alone. Diseases do not respect borders, and neither should our solutions be same. The World Bank's regional strategy rightly emphasizes cooperation, knowledge sharing, and joint action. Ghana stands ready to play its part. We will continue to strengthen regional surveillance and emergency response systems, support local manufacturing of health products, and promote the exchange of knowledge and innovation across our region.
Inferring to the strain the withdrawal of donor funds had on health services in Ghana, the sector minister, Kwabena Mintah-Kando, emphasized the country's quest to invest in domestic health financing.
Ghana is willing and ready to invest domestically in where we need or where it's needed most. The uncapping of the national health insurance, where all the monies realized from the national health insurance levy is being invested in the health sector. Already, we are even exiting from some of this program. Gavi, they support us with a lot of our vaccines, but we are exiting. Last year, for example, our budget for the vaccines stood around $24 million. We had the money to invest in it. This year, our budget is around $49 million. We are investing in it because it's public good.
CEO of the Komfo-Anokye Teaching Hospital, Dr. Kwejo Sabin, commended the inputs by the World Bank, emphasizing how effective they will be employed to boost healthcare delivery.
So without the data, it's like we'll be walking in the dark, trying to find our way out of it without much success, because we need to set objectives, and setting these objectives depends on what happens on the ground. So if you know that 12 women, for instance, die every month in a particular region because of pregnancy-related issues, you are able to tell that, let's say, 7 of them die from hypertension-related issues, 5 of them from bleeding. In that case, we will need to put in measures that will reduce the incidence of hypertension, and those who get hypertension can receive the necessary support so they will not die. If you take bleeding in pregnancy, then we can make sure that there's blood banks available. And then when women find themselves in emergencies, they can be conveyed to the nearest facility where they can get help. And then also to even increase the number of facilities where these women can be taken care of.
A bit longer on health-related issues this afternoon because the committee is set up to investigate the circumstances surrounding the death of Charles Amisa. In a no-bed syndrome is expected to present its findings to the Minister for Health this afternoon. The outcome of the report is anticipated to shed light on issues within the healthcare system, particularly concerns linked to emergency response and access to hospital beds. We can now cross over live to the Ministry of Health, where this engagement is underway.
For bringing us on board to investigate the untimely death of Charles Amisa. The Minister nominated 3 of us, Dr. Akufo-Addo Williams, his technical advisor, who is also a WHO consultant, and Dr. Henry Bule, an emergency physician. The 3 of us felt that the matter was grave enough, and therefore we needed to bring in a few more expertise. Unfortunately for us, Dr. Conrad Buckle, who is a consultant emergency physician in the UK and also teaches in the Ghana College, was in town, and therefore we quickly roped him in. We also brought Dr. Kwame Ekrement, an emergency physician from UGMC, to join the team. And then we needed critical care nursing staff. And so we brought Faustina Excel Adepa, who is a critical care nurse and the principal of the perioperative and critical nursing school in Kolebu, and Gertrude Nana Kunedu-Ajiman, who is a critical care nurse at UGMC. Of course, the head of legal, the Ministry of Health, was member secretary and was supported by Da Costa Osaya Jekum, who is the senior administrative manager. Can we have the So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the committee's report on the untimely death of Charles Amisa due to the denial of emergency care at the police hospital, the Greater Accra Regional Hospital, and Kolebu Teaching Hospital on the 6th of February 2026. Introduction. On the untimely death of Charles Amisa, who was involved in a motorcycle accident at Circle Overhead Bridge. There were also reports of denial of emergency care to Charles Amisa at Police Hospital, Greater Accra Regional Hospital, and Kolebu Teaching Hospital. And on the 23rd of February 2026, the Honorable Minister for Health, Kwabena Minta Akando MP, constituted an investigation committee Williams, Dr. Conrad Buckle, who is back in the UK, Dr. Henry Bulle, Dr. Kwame Ekrement, Madame Faustina Excel Adepa, Madame Gertrude Nanakune Dwajiman, Alhaji Dr. Inua Yusuf, and Da Costa Osei Ajekum. Now, the two objectives that were given to us precisely was to conduct a comprehensive and independent investigation into circumstances leading to the death of Charles Amisa, and also to conduct a comprehensive and independent investigation into circumstances leading to the alleged denial of emergency care to Charles Amisa at the police hospital, the Greater Accra Regional Hospital, and Kolebu Teaching Hospital. Now, we looked at policy and legal perspectives, and we looked at some national level policies that we reviewed. So the National Health Policy, Human Resource Management Policy Framework and Manual for Ghana Public Services, the Ministry of Health, Accident and Emergency Services and Guidelines, of course the 1992 Constitution, the Health Facilities and Regulatory Agency, the Patients Charter, the Health Professions Regulatory Bodies, Professional Bodies Registration, the National Ambulance Service, the National Blood Service, Health Insurance, and Health Financing. We looked at medical interventions in emergencies. And here we consulted the latest edition, the Advanced Trauma Life Support 11th edition 2026, that speaks to the XABCD algorithm, where X is the control of exsanguinating external hemorrhage. A looks at airway maintenance with cervical spine motion restriction. B for breathing and ventilation. C for circulation, hemorrhage control, and management of shock. D for disability. E for exposure and environmental control. The approach to the inquiry. Honorable Minister, we visited the accident site, the Circle Overhead Ambulance Bay, the emergency departments of the Police Hospital, Greater Accra Regional Hospital, Kolebu Teaching Hospital, and we visited, for me, a newly discovered facility, the Ghana Armed Forces Critical Care and Emergency Hospital, and the emergency department of 37 Military Hospital. These are pictures of the sites. This was the Circle Overhead where the accident happened. We used the ambulance, we visited the actual ambulance that was used to move Charles Amisa, and we looked at it and looked at the equipment that were in the ambulance and what, mitigating circumstances there were. This is the new facility that we discovered around the Air Force Base. 37 Military Hospital Accidents and Emergency Department, Police Hospital Accidents and Emergency Department, and Kolebu Teaching Hospital Accidents and Emergency. We needed to do these site visits to virtually, follow through on the emergency procedures in order to see whether there were any, problems there. And then, of course, the Greater Accra Regional Hospital, Ridge Hospital Accidents and Emergency Department. Now, this inquiry, we had meetings with National Ambulance staff, the police hospital, management, and those who were on duty, the Greater Accra Regional Hospital, management, and those who were on duty. And so the ambulance crew, the emergency medical technicians, Dr. Anne-Marie Kudowo, medical officer at Police Hospital, Dr. Nina Naomi Ejram Adotevi, senior medical officer at the Greater Accra Regional Hospital, Ms. Akosia Texan, triage nurse at the Greater Accra Regional Hospital, Dr. Ida Durant, an emergency specialist at Kolebu Teaching Hospital, Dr. Genevieve Aja, an emergency doctor at Kolebu Teaching Hospital, Ms. Joy Daisy Nelson, senior triage nurse, Kolebu Teaching Hospital, Ms. Salamatu Alhassan Edu, staff triage nurse at Kolebu Teaching Hospital, and Dr. Kwesi Sobre Nkrumah, a medical officer at Kolebu Teaching Hospital, and Dr. Blankson Abuaje, the pathologist who presented the autopsy report. We also had consultative meetings with public institutions, the National Ambulance Service, the management of Police Hospital, the management of Greater Accra Regional Hospital, the management of Kolebu Teaching Hospital, the Health Facilities Regulatory Agency, HEFRA, St. John Ambulance Service, the Medical and Dental Council, Ghana Police Motor Traffic and Transport Directorate, NTTD, and National Pensions and Regulatory Authority. We also consulted with the Social Security and National Insurance Trust, SNITS, the National Insurance Commission, the Ghana Health Service, the Health Promotion Division of Ghana Health Service, the Nurses and Midwives Referee Council, Ghana College of Physicians and Surgeons, Faculty of Emergency Medicine of the Ghana College of Physicians and Surgeons, the National Blood Service, the Christian Health Association of Ghana. We also consulted the professional bodies, the Ghana Medical Association, Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association, Ghana Physicians Assistants Association, Ghana Association of Quasi-Government Institutions, the Society of Private Medical and Dental Practitioners, the Ghana Journalists Association, the Emergency Medical Technicians Association of Ghana, and a Health and Development Consortium. We also had feedback. We met the family of Charles Emisa, and we had consultative feedback from organizations such as the Emergency Medicine Society of Ghana, the Emergency Medicine Residents in Accra, and Retired Nurses and Midwives Club. One of the 17 individuals sent us, contributions to the work that we're doing, from Alberta Mponsa, Antonia Agbochi, Collins Owusu, Dr. Joseph Apiadido, Dr. Salam Kwashi, Dr. Georgia Mofa, Elvis Kojo Alabili, Emanuela Asante, Hannah Ajay Mensah, Haik Dreshel Atta, Jonathan Mogbanja, Kojo Gadesi, Mame Kweamwa Boa, Wisi Kuji, Francis Odei, Anson, Dr. Joseph Oliver Comey, Veronica Addo Donko. Now, the post-mortem report was very pertinent. The significant post-mortem findings were that there was a deep laceration injury of the right upper arm and blood vessels and muscles. Charles Emisa had a comminuted open fracture of the right upper humerus. He had severe pallor of all internal organs, shocked kidneys from exsanguination, cerebral edema, and had a mild cardiomegaly. Now, this is a snapshot of precisely what happened, and I think that, for me, this tells the whole story. At time T, 000022.32, this was the incident scene. The ambulance got to the accident site. From there, 11 minutes, 22.43, they arrived at police hospital. This was the first point of contact with the former hospital system. So arrival of police hospital, and from there, they were moved on to the Greater Accra Regional Hospital. They arrived 26 minutes later at 22:58 to Greater Accra Regional Hospital. And again, at Greater Accra Regional Hospital, they were moved on to Kolebu Teaching Hospital. 48 minutes later, at 23:20, they arrived at Kolebu Teaching Hospital. And in all this, patient was alive. Again, Kolebu Hospital, there was no joy. In fact, he was moved on to go to UGMC, but the ambulance crew refused to move. And at 00:30, 118 minutes later, patient was pronounced dead. And the pathology confirms a slow death from medical neglect and was not from the instant trauma. What it means is that if at any of these facilities there had been medical intervention, Charles Amisa could have survived. Now, the key findings. Charles Amisa died of exsanguination, excessive loss of blood, due to an upper right arm bone and soft tissue injury, causing damage to the axillary and brachial arteries and veins following a road traffic accident. Death of Charles Amisa could have been avoided by medical intervention at the police hospital, the Greater Accra Regional Hospital, or Korle Bu Teaching Hospital. If the ambulance crew had applied compression on the laceration and packed the deep wound prior to transportation, they could have stopped the bleeding. They could also have administered intravenous fluids in the ambulance whilst moving. That would have restored the blood volume. And if in the hospitals they had either given intravenous fluids or whole blood, either in police, the Greater Accra Regional Hospital, or Korle Bu Teaching Hospital, they would have maintained life. Now, there were key findings related to the National Ambulance Service. We discovered that there was lack of documentation of critical vital signs of the patient. When they got there, they were able to take the blood pressure, they were able to take the SpO2, that's the oxygen content in the blood. But beyond that, there was very little that they could do. And it was because if you looked at the ambulance itself had equipment that were stationary. And unfortunately, the BP cuff got torn, and therefore it was difficult for them to take the vital signs. One of the other things was that there was no lack of FOBA, there was lack of formal handing over procedure. I mean, if you go with an ambulance crew, you identify yourself, EMT, Ajimambedu Akosa, I have a patient, XYZ, and you're handing over to who? So all that becomes part of the documentation of both the National Ambulance Service and the receiving hospitals. But there was nothing like that. Lack of proper chain of command interaction. Again, you got there to the hospital and the front person could even say, the place is full, so move on. There was no proper chain of command. Let's move on. Key findings related to the police hospital. Ambulance arrived at the hospital with the patient alive. Hospital failed to triage the patient and initiate stabilizing interventions. Ambulance moved with the patient out of hospital after 11 minutes. At the Greater Accra Regional Hospital, ambulance arrived at hospital with patient alive. It's important that we state all these things, because at the time they got to the hospital, patient was alive. Hospital failed to triage the patient and initiate stabilizing interventions. Ambulance moved with the patient out of the hospital after 17 minutes. And you can refer to that snapshot, 118 minutes referral anomaly. In Korle Bu Teaching Hospital, ambulance arrived at the hospital with the patient alive. Hospital failed to triage the patient and initiate stabilizing interventions. Ambulance crew was redirected to from Korle Bu Teaching Hospital to UGMC, but they refused. Patient died in the ambulance in about 70 minutes while in hospital. Key findings in respect of the ambulance crew. there was inconsistency in the taking and reporting of vital signs of the patient. And the emergency medical technicians lacked basic life support, advanced cardiac life support, and advanced trauma life support. In other words, they were just carriers, really, and could not, without these skills, maintain life whilst in the ambulance. Key findings in respect of the professionals. Dr. Anne-Marie Kudowo failed to exercise ethical and professional judgment prudently by not attending to Charles Emisa in a life-threatening condition at Police Hospital, leading to his death later from severe loss of blood. And she was untruthful to the committee. Dr. Nina Naomi Ejram Adotevi failed to exercise ethical and professional judgment prudently by not attending to Charles Emisa in a life-threatening condition at Greater Accra Regional Hospital, leading to his death later from severe loss of blood. Dr. Ida Durant failed to exercise ethical and professional judgment prudently by not attending to Charles Emisa in a life-threatening condition at Kolebu Teaching Hospital, leading to his death later from severe loss of blood. Dr. Genevieve Ajar failed to exercise ethical and professional judgment prudently by not attending to Charles Emisa in a life-threatening condition at Kolebu Teaching Hospital, leading to his death later from severe loss of blood. Ms. Akosia B. Texan failed to exercise ethical and professional judgment prudently by not attending to Charles Emisa in a life-threatening condition at Greater Accra Regional Hospital, leading to his death later from severe loss of blood. Ms. Joy Daisy Nelson failed to exercise ethical and professional judgment prudently by not attending to Charles Emisa in a life-threatening condition at Kolebu Teaching Hospital, leading to his death later from severe loss of blood. Ms. Salamatu Alhassan Edu failed to exercise ethical and professional judgment prudently by not attending to Charles Emisa in a life-threatening condition at Kolebu Teaching Hospital, leading to his death later loss of blood. Conclusions. The medical staff on duty at the Police Hospital, Greater Accra Regional Hospital, and Kolebu Teaching Hospital failed to attend to Charles Emisa when he was in a life-threatening condition, and this led to his avoidable death. Specific recommendations. Dr. Anne-Marie Kudowo should be referred to the management of Police Hospital and to the Medical and Dental Council for disciplinary action against her for breach of professional duty to Charles Emisa and for being untruthful to the committee. Dr. Nina Naomi Ejram Adotevi should be referred to the management of Greater Accra Regional Hospital as their employer. They have oversight, administrative and management disciplinary processes that they must go through, and the Medical and Dental Council for disciplinary action against her for breach of professional duty to Charles Emisa. Dr. Ida Durant should be referred to the management of Kolebu Teaching Hospital and Medical and Dental Council for disciplinary action against her for breach of professional duty to Charles Emisa. Dr. Genevieve Ajar should be referred to the management of Kolebu Teaching Hospital and Medical and Dental Council for disciplinary action against her for breach of professional duty to Charles Emisa. Ms. Akosia B. Texan should be referred to the management of Greater Accra Regional Hospital and to the Nurses and Midwives Council for disciplinary action against her for breach of professional duty to Charles Emisa. Ms. Joy Daisy Nelson should be referred to the management of Kolebu Teaching Hospital and the Nurses and Midwives Council for disciplinary action against her for breach of professional duty to Charles Emisa. Ms. Salamatu Alhassan Edu should be referred to Kolebu Teaching Hospital and Nurses and Midwives Council for disciplinary action against her for breach of professional duty to Charles Emisa. There were specific recommendations to expedite action on the establishment of a national electronic emergency bed management system. This was one of the critical findings of the committee. To take steps to fully integrate the Ghana Armed Forces Critical Care and Emergency Hospital into the National Emergency and Critical Care System. It was something that we discovered. It has a 150-bed capacity with an ICU, an intensive care unit, and we felt that this is a national asset that should be brought into the National Emergency and Critical Care System. Ensure compulsory triaging of all patients brought to all healthcare facilities in a state of emergency across the country. And by all healthcare facilities, we're looking at both public and private healthcare facilities. Establish a national emergency care fund to enable emergency care for the first 24 hours in public and private healthcare facilities across the country. What this means is that if you are picked up anywhere, then you are moved to the nearest hospital for stabilization, whether it's private, whether it's public. And for the private sector, one of their problems was, of course, reimbursement. And that is why we felt there's a need to establish this National Emergency Care Fund, in addition to what National Health Insurance does and what the National Insurance Commission does to facilitate, to expedite action on legislation for public and private health care facilities to prioritize life-threatening cases and ensure stabilizing interventions for patients in need of emergency care across the country. Ensure basic life support. And I just want to refer to all of you journalists here. I don't believe any of you know what basic life support is. If anybody collapses here, or even in the Ghana Journalists Association Forum, who can step and go and make sure that that person survives? It is important that basic life support and advanced cardiac life support, basic life support for the general public, but at least basic life support, advanced cardiac life support training for all health workers, pupils, students, and the general public. You can be a health worker, not necessarily a doctor, but if you work in a hospital and somebody collapses right in front of you and you cannot even do first aid, I think that is despicable. This is something that must happen, and we must put a time limit to it so that everybody gets properly trained. Establish a national governance and management system for emergency care to ensure implementation of all the game-changing interventions in public and private healthcare facilities across the board. This is not the first time such an incident has happened. We do not want a report that will, just, just become shelf-bound without any proper realization. And we believe that we should be able to implement all the game-changing findings. This is it, and the committee wishes to express our profound gratitude to the Honorable Minister for Health, Kwabena Akufo-Addo, MP, for the trust and confidence reposed in us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the good work the committee has done. Can we put our hands together for them once again? At this juncture, we'll invite the Honorable Minister to officially come for the report.
Honorable Minister, this is a very detailed report that the committee is submitting to you, and we hope that action will be the key word. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable Minister, we invite you to give some brief remarks on this. Thank you.
Yeah, at this point, may I request that we all be upstanding to observe 1 minute silence in honor of our brother Charles and Misa. May the soul of our brother Charles Emisa and other departed rest in perfect peace. Amen. Let's be seated. The very background of this exercise has eloquently been stated by the Venerable Professor Badu Akosa. And I don't intend to repeat whatever he has said. First and foremost, Prof and your team, I thank you so very much for the thorough work done. In the first place, I constituted a 3-member committee, but in your wisdom, you realized that you needed more hands to do a good job. I thank you for that judgment. And just to assure you, the details of the report, especially the recommendations, will be implemented to the letter. Ladies and gentlemen, on the 23rd of February, when I constituted a committee chaired by the Venerable Professor Badu Akosa, I promised the good people of this country that when the report is ready, we'll publish the report. Here we are, making the report available to every Ghanaian. Promise fulfilled. But that is not the most important aspect. As Professor stated, the most important aspect is for us to be able to avoid the avoidable deaths we have witnessed. And therefore, without wasting much time, I want to accordingly direct my chief director, the chief director of the Ministry of Health, to write to the following people, the following health professionals, and their hospitals, and their regulators, that disciplinary actions be taken against them. 1, Dr. Anne-Marie Kudo should be referred to the police hospital and the Medical and Dental Council with immediate effect. Dr. Nina Naomi Iram, the Greater Accra Regional Hospital, and the Medical and Dental Council. Dr. Ida Drant be referred to Kolebu Teaching Hospital and the Medical and Dental Council. I understand some of these facilities have already started disciplinary actions against some of these people, and I'll urge them to expedite action on them, and their respective regulators must also do same. Dr. Genevieve Aja must also be referred to Kolebu Teaching Hospital and Medical and Dental Council. Ms. Akosia B. Texan must be referred to the Greater Accra Regional Hospital and then NMC. Ms. Joy Daisy Nelson, Kolebu Teaching Hospital and NMC. Ms. Salamatu Ahasan Bedu must also be referred to Kolebu Teaching Hospital and NMC. Before this incident, some measures had already been taken with respect to our emergency response in this country. We had already started the electronic bed management. And so at that point, we're doing the barcoding and the inventory taking of all beds, beginning or piloting with the regional hospitals and the teaching hospitals. So today, ladies and gentlemen in the press, will have the opportunity to visit that particular site at Greater Accra Regional Hospital to see the progress made so far. That is an action the professor was talking about. The second one was another recommendation that the critical care and emergency center or emergency hospital at the Ghana Armed Forces must be also made available to the public. That was a World Bank sponsored World Health Organization, UN, is that UN? Okay. So it is a national asset that must be optimized. And so His Excellency the President has directed that that must also be made available to every Ghanaian. And so from here, with the press, we'll go there and inspect the nature of that particular facility. And if there's a need for us to beef anything up, we'll do so accordingly. With these few words, I want to repeat and assure the committee that your work will not be in vain. We'll endeavor to implement all the recommendations in the best interest of Mother Ghana. I thank you so very much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Colleague media, we are grateful for this opportunity. We'll go to Bemakam. From Bemakam, we'll come back to Ridge Hospital to inspect these.
So those were live visuals from the Health Ministry there concerning the case of a hit-and-run incident that shook the nation. Now, the investigations are out and they have concluded that that death was avoidable. Let's now turn our attention to the family of the deceased. And I've been joined on Zoom by the sister of Charles Amisa, Dr. Matilda Amisa, who has been at the forefront of seeking justice and reforms following her brother's death. Dr. Amisa, thank you very much for joining me this afternoon. I was actually looking at the recommendations that they gave and sequence of what happened to your brother. I've been going through it when the incident started at around 10:32, and then he died some few hours later. First of all, they have concluded that the death of your brother was avoidable. That's something that you've probably known for a while now. How do you feel knowing that the truth has finally been confirmed by the committee?
Thank you very much for the opportunity you have given me, and I thank everyone for being with us and supporting us. It's just like a bruise again, but we are grateful. Mixed feelings. We express our sincere gratitude to the committee that conducted the investigation. We appreciate their professionalism, their commitment and dedication throughout the process in pursuit for accountability. We also express our profound appreciation to the Ministry of Health. Right. They have done an excellent job at finding the cause of death. We are very grateful for the attention given to this matter. And as a family, we have turned pain into purpose, and we are going all out in honor of Charles Amisa. And in memory of the circumstances surrounding his death, we have set up the Charles Amisa Emergency Care Foundation. In memory of him, and our aim is to help to end the emergency care crisis in this country. Right. Yeah.
I'm looking at the conclusion that the committee gave. They said that the medical staff on duty at the police hospital, the Greater Accra Regional Hospital, and the Kolebu Teaching Hospital failed to attend to Charles Amisa when he was in a life-threatening condition, and this led to his avoidable death. Let's look at the recommendations. They have recommended that Dr. Anne-Marie should be referred to police hospital for disciplinary action against her for breach of professional duty to Charles Amisa and for being untruthful to the committee. Dr. Nina Naomi Aram should be referred to the Greater Accra Regional Hospital for disciplinary action against her for breach of professional duty to Charles Emisa. Miss Salamatu Al-Hassan Addo should be referred to the Korle-Bu Teaching Hospital for disciplinary action against her for breach of professional duty to Charles Emisa. Are you satisfied with these recommendations?
So according to our code of conduct, exactly what the minister had said is what they're supposed to do. But however, this will not bring Charles back. And like I said, he's gone. But we do not want this to happen to anyone again. As looking back, we would have to prevent these kind of deaths from occurring and not usually set up a committee when the death has already occurred. So I think that it's a step in the right direction, but it will not bring Charles Emisa back to us.
Well, they have recommended the expedite action on legislation for public and private healthcare facilities to prioritize life-threatening cases and ensure stabilizing interventions for patients in need of emergency care due to the unfortunate passing of your dear brother. Is that a welcoming recommendation, you'd say?
Yes. I think this partnership would be brilliant because we know that the private sector usually is all about money, and they would want to see patients if you have the money, and rushing an emergency to a private sector where there are beds available. If they open their doors to such emergencies, it will go a long way to help the government.
Was the family consulted at any point by the committee?
Yes. So the committee consulted us. We've been in communication with Professor Ajman-Bedu Akosa. He expressed he expressed himself concerning this, and he gave us the assurance that they would finish and then give us the feedback. So after the investigations, they truly got to the family. They spoke to us, and we appreciate their efforts. Prof, God bless you. Prof and the team, God bless you. You've been on our side throughout this journey.
And then the key findings were that he died of exsanguination, which is excessive loss of blood due to right upper arm bone and soft tissue injuries, causing damage to axillary and branchial arteries and veins following the road traffic accident.
Yes.
That is very sad.
Exactly. So exsanguination is something that can kill within minutes. And he lost his golden 1 hour to be saved. And I've also thought about it several times, but it's only God that knows best. And I'm hoping that this will be the end of such a tragedy. So we would partner with whoever the Ministry of Health, all the stakeholders with Charles Emisa Foundation to make sure that we improve our referral systems and our emergency response so that at the end we can say that Ghana has ended this crisis. It's a tough thing to do. Hearing from major stakeholders is very tough to do, but it's doable.
Beyond the disciplinary actions that they have been referred to, the key medical practitioners who have been named in this report, is the family going to take any action against them, maybe?
For now, we haven't discussed anything of that sort yet. But since now that the report is out, I'm actually at work at the moment.
Right.
Yes, and throughout the process, I've been on duty. So we'll talk together again and see. Right.
My final question to you is about your foundation. Tell us a bit about that, briefly.
Okay. So Charles Emisa Emergency Care Foundation, of course, was born out of tragic loss of our brother Charles Emisa. And in his memory, we established this foundation, which is still in the preliminary stages of registration and all that. But we are taking the initiative to train, equip the healthcare facilities. Usually, we are targeting mostly the districts, the health centers, and then the CHIPS compounds, because we realize that these places, there are a lot of attendance there, and there are a lot of hospitals, over 8,000 facilities in this sector, but most of them do not have the emergency preparedness. They are not in that capacity to take care of emergencies. So they usually refer the cases to the bigger facilities, overburdening them and all. So we have taken it up to, train, equip these facilities so that they can be able to manage emergencies like, what happened in other minor emergencies. To reduce the burden and the bed capacity, we also, try training with safe referral. Yes, so that's what we are doing, and we are making sure that every second counts for every individual that is in Ghana, and every life matters to us as well.
Dr. Matilda Amisa, my condolences once again to you and the entire family.
Thank you.
And may the soul
We thank everyone for the support. Through this difficult time. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. May the soul of the late Charles Amisa rest in peace, and may his memory be a blessing. That's how we end the pulse this evening. My name is Kenneth Jesse. For more news, you can log on to myjoyonline.com. Have a good evening.